Hi, I'm Richard Maraj, Senior Minister at Unity of Phoenix Spiritual Center, and I want to thank you for visiting our website and for tuning in to today's message. If you feel inspired by today's talk, I really encourage you to make a donation by hitting that button below and making a contribution to this ministry. It'll allow us to continue these messages online and to do the great work we do here at Unity of Phoenix, which is to inspire people to live better lives. So thanks for tuning in, thanks for your support, and we hope to see you at a Sunday real soon.
Morning again, everyone. All right. So this principal received a call one morning, and the voice said, "Tommy Jones will not be in school today." And the principal asked, "Who's speaking?" And the voice nervously replied, "This is my father." So how many people ever had a tough day or been so beat up and demoralized you wanted to call in sick or play hooky to life? You didn't even want to show up for life. And how many people here have ever been in a rut and been so stuck, feeling like you're going nowhere, that you wondered if you'd ever get out of that funk? Anybody? And how many people here have ever had a problem that's so big, so overwhelming, you wondered if you could really even get beyond it? You know, I have a very strong, clear belief that every human being wants to have a happy life. Everybody wants to experience love. Everyone wants to have great levels of success, happiness, and fulfillment. And I believe that a key element to having that great, happy, successful life is how do you show up when life isn't working the way you'd like it to? How do you show up when life knocks you down? How do you show up when you feel devastated? Jesus said, in this life there will be trials and tribulations. In this life there will be losses and difficulties and hardships. There will be pain and frustration. But he also said, be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world. Be of good cheer, for that Spirit of God in us is stronger and can help us rise above any of these difficulties. And not only rise above, but can bring us levels of insight and strength and joy and understanding that makes our lives more happy, more successful, and more enriching. Last week, we started a 4-week series on a book called On Fire by John O'Leary, and it's a story, a true story of this man, of when he was burned at the age of 9, playing with gasoline in his garage, and it exploded, and it not only caught the garage on fire, but it threw him across and slammed him against a wall. He was on fire, and the only way to get into the house or get help was to run through the flames again. And while he was running around, just trying to get some help, he ended up being burned over 100% of his body. 87% of them were third-degree burns. He was burned so badly the doctors didn't think that he would survive the night. But he ended up surviving, but it changed his life forever. He spent 5 months in the hospital being bandaged up every single day. He had lung damage from smoke inhalation. He had to have 24 skin grafts. He had a trach tube. He couldn't breathe. He had to have his skin bandaged. And when you have no skin, it hurts everywhere. When you have no skin, there's a huge risk of infection. When you have no skin, it's hard to regulate the body temperature. So this was a painful and difficult experience. Imagine a 9-year-old going through all that. And then the thing that was most devastating to him was when they had to amputate all his fingers. And he got so angry when his father told him, he woke up from a procedure and his father told him they had to take his fingers. And he said, why'd you let him take my fingers? And he said, oh, maybe they'll just grow back. Hair grows back, skin grows back, toenails grow back. He's 9 years old. He's thinking his fingers might grow back. So hearing that his fingers would never grow back, he was absolutely devastated, thinking I'll never play baseball. I'll never be able to write my name or go to school. I wouldn't be able to drive. I wouldn't be able to get a job or make any money, and he thought his life was over. Now, I have to admit to you, reading this book in a way triggered a lot of memories and common experiences I had myself. When I was a little bit older than him, being paralyzed in a car crash, being taken in an ambulance and being the first person seeing is my mom, being told I'd never walk again and have a spinal cord injury and had surgeries. I happened to also be in the hospital for 5 months and had many, many months more of therapy. You know, I thought of all the things I could never do again, could never walk or play basketball, ride a bicycle, you know, run upstairs, go bowling. I like bowling. And there were a lot of things I thought I'd never be able to do again. Interesting, another thing we had in common is we both read the same book that changed our lives in an amazing and profound way forever. And the book was entitled Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Anybody ever heard or read the book? And read the book 3 times. And so you know how amazing it is. Well, I'll tell you 2 things that changed my life from that book, and 2 things that coincidentally changed his life from the book were these 2 things. Now, the first thing is in the book, Dr. Frankl, you know, was in a Nazi concentration camp in deplorable, horrible conditions. People around him, you know, felt so much despair. And he lost everything. His family were killed, everything. So it was a really, really horrible, horrible time and experience for him. What kept him going, interestingly, was a quote from the German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, who said this: "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. And based on that, Frankl became a therapist when he got out, and he developed something called logotherapy. And in it, here's the belief, is that if someone is suffering, but they see meaning in their lives, that even in their suffering, they will not despair. That no matter what you're going through, if you see meaning and purpose for your life, that it will keep you going, that it will actually help you rise from tragedies to triumphs, from a predicament to achievement. It would help lift you up when you find meaning, when you know the why that you're going for, the purpose, the thing that you want to create and achieve. It will lift you out of those dark places. And then the second one, Frankl said this: everything can be taken from a man except one thing. The last of human freedoms is to choose your attitude in any given situation, to choose your own way. O'Leary put it this way. He said, you can't always choose the path you walk, but you can always choose the manner in which you walk that path. That no matter what is going on, every one of us has the power to choose our attitude, how we show up and how we move through those experiences. So today we continue on with week 2 in our series on fire, and it's subtitled The 7 Choices to Ignite a Radically Inspired Life. How many people either live a radically inspired life or would like to live a radically inspired life? Okay, about half the people. This is perfect. So here's a review from last week. So he said the first radical choice to make is to be fully responsible and accept full responsibility for your life. Because so often when things don't go well, we want 1 or 2 things. We either want to blame somebody for it, or we want somebody to come save us. And the truth is, accepting responsibility, you know, it's funny, it almost feels like a burden. It's like, oh man, I'm responsible. That means it's my fault. Or I'm responsible. That feels like a lot of pressure and stress. You know, I want to be responsible for the good things, but I don't want to be fully responsible for the bad things. But the fact is, being responsible, as scary as it can feel, is the most powerful thing in our lives. Is to know that no one else has a choice or control over my success or what I will achieve or all the things I can become in my life. I am fully responsible for everything in my life. Together, I am fully responsible for everything in my life. Take a deep breath. I want you to notice how you feel. What kind of feelings come into you when you say, I am fully responsible for my life? Is it warm and fuzzy? Is it exciting? I think generally not, but here are 3 feelings I think we should feel when we think I'm fully responsible for life. And that is, we should feel liberated, empowered, and excited. Because we're free. When you're responsible, you're totally free to make your choices. It means you have the power to choose whatever direction and to achieve whatever. And you should get excited about the possibilities for your life. I am fully responsible for my life. Together, I am fully responsible for my life. Take a deep breath. Feel liberated, feel empowered, and feel excited, because that's what responsibility does. It reclaims our power, and it frees us and excites us to create what we want no matter what's going on. Second thing he talked about was that so often that he was trying to hide his scars. He just wanted to pretend and be normal so people would like him. And so often in life, we hide our shame, our fear, our hurt. We hide all that stuff, wanting to act normal and please people. But the fact is, when you hide your hurt, your shame, your pain, you also withhold your beauty and your talent and your greatness. And I shared about my sister who fell down some concrete stairs in the subway, and how it smacked up her teeth and really damaged her. But she realized that was awakening, that the universe was saying to her, look at how you're living. Is this the life you're called to live? Are you being the person you came to be? And it really created some incredible changes in her over the last, year and a half. She was chasing a PhD, and then she realized, I don't want a PhD. I got some siblings with PhDs, and she thought, I just want to be happy. So she just started creating a whole different space in her life, discovering talents and abilities and sharing them, painting and doing all kinds of wonderful things. And so today we're going to look at choice number 3 and choice number 3 and 4 we're going to look at today. And it is to find your why, your meaning, and then also to choose your attitude and outlook. On the day of the fire, when John was on fire, running through the house, trying to get some help, and screaming, it was his brother that came running towards him to give him help while he was on fire. And he had thought at the time his brother would have been the last guy in the world he thought would save his life, because his brother would always pick on him, call him names that he hated. He would make him peanut butter and jelly sandwich and lace it with Tabasco sauce and pretend he was giving it to him. So he didn't like his little brother, John, being around. So he didn't think he would have been the guy that would save him. And that when he saw him on fire, he started hitting him with the front door mat. But the fire was actually getting on his brother as well, and he drew back a little bit. But then he was clear on what he wanted to save his brother. So he went back in and beat him, made him roll in the mat, took him outside and laid him on the wet, snowy grass, and even went inside to make sure everything was cool. And his brother was an amazing hero. And one of the things he said here is that his brother, like with fire, something difficult, you pull back a little. You don't want to get burned. But at some point, his brother made a decision. I want to step back in. I want to save what really matters. And he said that's symbolic of life. When things get difficult in our lives, sometimes we want to pull back. But we need to make a decision. Is what is important in my life? What matters? Because it's in the thing that matters we step back in and try to save what's important. If our marriage is failing and struggling, do we want to pull back, or do we want to step back and save what is important to us, or our career, or our health, or our joy, our life? Is that what is your why? What is the thing that is so important to you that you want to save it, that you want to improve it, that you want to transform it? And that is how important a why is. That it means you will go and do anything. His brother had his arms burned, saving him, because that was important to him. It's interesting. His doctor, Dr. Ivazian, when he made his morning rounds, he did something interesting. They're always taking like other doctors and they're talking. His doctor did an interesting thing, is that he had the janitor come with them and the doctors. And the janitor's name was Laval. And he said, Laval, I want you to look at that young man. And he said, you are keeping him alive. He said, the number one killer of people with burns is infection. And because you're sanitizing his room every single day, you're not just mopping. You are saving this young man's life. And what I loved about that is that the doctor showed him the why. That it wasn't just mopping. He showed the meaning and the difference that his mopping was making, that he was in fact saving a young man's life. The fact is, everything that you do matters. Every interaction you have with people matters. How you parent matters. How you treat people matters. The work that you do matters. And sometimes we get so caught up in the routine, we think what we do don't matter, but it's because we forget that who we have come here to be is to make an absolute difference. And sometimes we need to remind ourselves of our why. Why do you wake up in the morning? What do you want to achieve in the work that you do? What is the thing that lights you up and gives your life meaning and purpose? That sometimes we need to remind ourselves of those things. You know, there was these two guys that were building walls, and somebody asked one of them, who looked at us kind of bored and just building brick after brick. He said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm building a wall." And then somebody asked the other guy, who was excited about it. He said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm building a cathedral." The fact is they were doing the same thing, but one thought it was mundane, the other one thought it was magnificent and making a huge difference. So the question is, what is your why? What is the thing that you're doing? Why are you doing it? Because your why will drive you. Your purpose and the meaning and the difference that you want to make is what makes all those little action steps exciting and worthwhile and not just boring and mundane. Here's what Patanjali said in the 2nd century BC. When you are inspired by some great purpose, some extraordinary project, all your thoughts break their bounds. Your mind transcends limitations. Your consciousness expands in every direction, and you will find yourself in a new, great, and wonderful world. Dormant forces, faculties, and talents become alive, and you will discover yourself to be a greater person by far than you ever dreamed yourself to be. Purpose and meaning drives our lives, whether you're saving your brother, saving your marriage, providing for your family, building a cathedral, cleaning or sanitizing someone's hospital room, overcoming an addiction, dealing with a terminal illness, growing your business, helping people, being a teacher, writing the first Western opera. Purpose drives us. It gives our lives meaning, and it starts to engage all of the forces and faculties of the universe when we have meaning and purpose in our lives. Mark Twain said the two most important days in your life, the first is the day you were born, and the second is when you find out why. So what is your why? What is your meaning? What is your purpose? What is the difference that you are here to make? Because having that meaning and purpose and wanting to make a difference is the thing that makes the difference. And the second thing is about choosing your attitude. Again, Frankl said, everything can be taken away from man except one thing, and that is his last freedom to choose his attitude in any given situation. So John tells about his father who had Parkinson's for like 20-something years. And he said he watched his father kind of deteriorate, being from a very active, strong man to not being able to do as much, shaking. And, that he was in a wheelchair. He had a hard time communicating. He often, when he was drinking his tea, would spill it. He had hurt his arm because he fell, and his arm was in a sling. And John wanted to tell his dad how much he admired him. And he said to his father, "How do you stay so positive?" And his father said, "Well, John, I don't know how I could be negative when I have so much to be grateful for." And he just smiled with a sincere look on his face. And John, in astonishment, said, "Can you tell me 3 things you're grateful for having Parkinson's?" And the father said, "Yes." He said, "First, I'm grateful that it isn't a more serious disease." He said, "I'm grateful that I have more time to reflect on who I am and my life and who God is. Because for most of my life, I've just been so busy and moving around so much, I didn't really think very deeply." And third, he said, "I'm grateful for Parkinson's because while I need more help and while many friends have gone, it's brought your mother and I closer. We spend more time together and we feel a greater connection, and I love her more than ever." And he said, "Wow." And he said, No, I'm not done yet." He said, I'm grateful for medical technology. I'm grateful for the empathy that it has given me towards other people who are going through harsh and difficult times. I'm grateful for the days I can speak and walk, because some days I cannot speak and walk. I'm grateful for whenever we drive that we get to use the handicap parking spot. And I'm grateful to see, I'm grateful to hear, I'm grateful to be alive. I will tell you, attitude and perspective makes all the difference in the world, in a relationship, in any challenge, regardless of any condition. The attitude is the thing that makes life grand and better and opens the doors to possibility and to living that happy, successful life that we all want. So John was speaking in a prison, and so And it was intimidating to go through all the gates. And there was a room, it was a chapel, and there were 60 men in orange jumpsuits. And he was a little scared. He did his presentation. It was going really well. There was a piano there, and he played, and they sang Amazing Grace, and it was going so well. He thought, oh, let me do that same thing I did with my dad. And he said to the 60 guys in jail, he says, tell me 3 things that that you're grateful for about being in prison. Silence. Finally, one guy says, I can't think of one blank, blank thing. And then all the guys just started laughing, and John's getting nervous, thinking, why did I do this? A couple minutes go by, and finally a guy at the back gets up and says, I'm grateful for being here because I have heat in the winter and air conditioning in the summer. I'm grateful for the library and laundry service, for a chance at redemption. I'm grateful for the new friends I've met. I'm grateful for leaving behind old circumstances. I'm grateful for 3 square meals daily. I'm grateful for my bed, for my pillow, for my blanket, for my life. And then the chapel erupted in applause. Same walls, same prison, same orange jumpsuits, same 3 meals, completely different experiences. Attitude is the thing that transforms our conditions, helps us see, the good, helps us see possibilities, helps us see opportunities, helps us see the positive, helps us see the blessings. No matter what the condition, attitude is the thing that transforms it. And sometimes when things aren't going our way, sometimes we need to help ourselves see the positive by asking ourselves questions like, what can I learn from this? What is positive in this situation? What is it here for me to be grateful? What is it? What can I gain from this thing? How can I become, stronger and better and more successful through this experience? The greatest indicator of joy, it is not money or achievement or kids or good looks or expensive vacations. The number one indicator of joy is how grateful someone is. You cannot have joy without being grateful, and you cannot be grateful without experiencing joy. And being grateful, and it's not for the huge things. Sometimes we're all looking for a grand slam home run thing to be grateful for when that big thing happens. It's practicing gratitude daily by being grateful for the little simple things. Like looking in to the eyes of your child, or maybe the smile of your partner, maybe laughing with a friend, maybe the smell of coffee in the morning, maybe the cool air against your skin. Maybe listening to your favorite music and just rocking out. Maybe it's finding a quiet place near some water and looking at a waterfall. But it's being great when the mind is grateful for things, it tends to be joyful, and a joyful and grateful mind tends to be open to good and possibilities and solutions and creativity and ideas. 2 or 3 days before John left, after 5 months of being in the hospital, 24 surgeries, and he was still a little steamed about not having his fingers, his doctor came in, turned off the TV, sat down on the bed next to him, and said, John, your recovery was miraculous. I've never seen anything like it in my entire career. I'm so glad you've had the support of your family and friends and all your prayers. But as difficult as the past few months have been on your journey will continue to be equally challenging. He said, John, do you know that you can still do almost anything you want to do in life? Perhaps you won't be a court reporter, but you could be a judge or a lawyer. Perhaps you won't play baseball again, but you can manage or own a team. You may not be able to be a carpenter, but you can be a general contractor and build incredible things. John, if you want to be married and raise kids and have an incredible life, you can. You are a remarkable young man, and you still can have an amazing life. You've endured some terrible things, but the best is yet to come. You can choose to be a victim in this and make it a tragedy, or you can rise above and be a victor and have a great life. It's your choice. What was interesting was Dr. Avazian, as a child, was also burned in a fire. That he truly understood what John was going through. And John was so touched that he took time to come and tell him those words of encouragement, where with doctors as busy as they are, he didn't need to do that at all. And what I found interesting and inspiring is that we all want to live an inspired life, but a part of living an inspired life is helping inspire other people to live an inspired life. Friedrich Nietzsche was born in 1844, and yet his words that he wrote made a huge difference in the 1930s to Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl wrote a book about that made a huge difference many in the 1980s for John O'Leary and for me and countless others as well. We are here to live inspired lives, but we are here to also inspire others to live inspired lives. Every one of us gets burned. Every one of us has losses and pain, and we wish we could call in and just play hooky on life, but the fact is we can't. So when life knocks us down, we have two choices: to stay down, or we can choose to rise up by making two bold choices. Find your why. Find your meaning and purpose of what you want to achieve and what you have come here to do and the difference that you are here to make. And then the second thing is check your attitude. Be grateful and joyful for the little things and ask yourself, how can I get better? How can I learn? How can I prove? How can I make a difference through this experience? Everything can be taken from someone except one thing, and that is our ability to choose our attitude in any given situation. So no matter what you're going through, you can rise. The question is, what are you going to choose? God bless you all.